Every day, you wake up and feel the same invisible weight. You're not in pain. You're not even tired in the usual sense. But somehow, your body refuses to move. You lie there staring at the ceiling. Maybe you reach for your phone. Maybe you scroll for a bit, or just stay still. Too quiet to be considered chaos, but far too heavy to be peace. You tell yourself to get up. You whisper commands in your mind, but nothing changes. And then, like clockwork, the voice inside begins. You're just lazy. You're wasting your life. If you've ever felt that quiet despair, watch till the end. You're not lazy. You're spiritually exhausted. Most people think laziness is a failure of willpower, that if you really cared, you'd just get up and push through. But this isn't about being tired from effort. It's about being tired before the day even begins. It's a kind of fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, because it doesn't come from the body. It comes from the soul. You might look at yourself and wonder, why can't I just do the basics? Why does even brushing your teeth or answering a message feel like climbing a mountain? And yet when others look at you, they can't see the war. To them, you're just being lazy. To you, it feels like something inside you is fading away. This is the part that hurts the most. The disconnect between what others assume and what you're actually experiencing. They see stillness. You feel collapse. They see a blank stare. You feel shame, confusion, and a kind of grief you can't even name. But here's the truth that no one tells you. This is not laziness. This is a warning. A cry from deep within. Not to do more, but to stop. To stop forcing a life that no longer feeds you. To stop chasing expectations that are slowly killing your spirit. This isn't failure. It's the first symptom of something deeper. Something you've likely ignored for a long time. And unless you understand it, you'll keep punishing yourself for what your soul is actually trying to heal. What makes this feeling so unbearable isn't just the exhaustion, it's the shame that follows it. You wake up already feeling behind. You see others chasing goals, waking up at 5 a.m., making content, making money, making meaning, and you're just here, paralyzed. You tell yourself you're the problem, that if you just tried harder, you could snap out of it. So you make promises. Tomorrow, I'll fix everything. I'll wake up early, I'll take control. I'll start fresh. And then tomorrow comes, and the weight is still there. And now, you don't just feel tired, you feel worthless. This is where the silent battle begins, not between you and the world, but between two voices inside you. One voice tells you you're lazy, that you're a failure, that you need to get it together. But the other voice, quieter, buried, is begging you to stop. Not to give up, but to listen. Because the stillness you're stuck in isn't empty. It's full of something you're not naming. Grief, maybe. Loneliness. Disconnection. The quiet ache of living a life that no longer reflects who you are. The modern world leaves no room for this kind of stillness. It's obsessed with movement, with progress, with being constantly on. So when your soul slows down, society calls it laziness. But this stillness, this paralysis, is often your psyche refusing to participate in something false. And if you try to push through it, to force yourself to perform, to be productive again without addressing the root, it only gets worse. Because no amount of surface action will heal a deeper misalignment. That's why this isn't just about energy. It's about meaning. It's about the quiet spiritual death that happens when we live too long without connection to what actually moves us. We've been trained to think that when our motivation disappears, something is broken. that the engine of our lives has failed, and it's our job to fix it. But what if the engine was never the problem? What if your psyche is not malfunctioning, but refusing? Refusing to run on goals that don't matter to you. Refusing to move toward things that feel hollow. Refusing to participate in a version of life that your deeper self has outgrown. This isn't dysfunction, it's protest. There is a kind of burnout that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too little of what's real. It comes from emotional suppression, from wearing masks, from dragging yourself through obligations that betray your own inner values. Over time, your subconscious begins to shut the system down, not to punish you, but to protect you. We call it laziness, but it's actually a kind of psychic strike. Your energy isn't gone, it's just withdrawn, hidden, buried beneath the debris of unspoken needs and neglected truths. And until you see that, you'll keep trying to fix yourself with habits, routines, motivation hacks, as if the problem is effort, when it's actually direction. This is why so many people feel like they're drowning in their own lives, even when nothing is wrong. The job is fine. The relationships are okay. The bills are paid. And yet, something inside refuses to engage. It doesn't want more discipline. It wants a reason. This is where modern psychology often falls short. It gives you techniques for productivity, but not for meaning. It teaches you how to function, but not how to feel alive again. And if you've ever wondered why simple things, getting dressed, answering messages, leaving the house, feel like monumental tasks, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your psyche is wise enough to reject anything that feels empty. This protest isn't the end of you. It's the beginning of something far more honest. 3 of the greatest thinkers of the inner world, Viktor Frankl, Carl Jung, and Søren Kierkegaard, each understood something that modern life keeps trying to forget: that a human being can endure almost anything except the loss of meaning. Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the concentration camps, wrote that people don't suffer most from pain itself, but from suffering without purpose. When life feels stripped of meaning, even the smallest tasks become unbearable. Frankl called this the existential vacuum, a hollow space where nothing feels worth doing, yet everything feels demanded of you. Sound familiar? Carl Jung saw this collapse from a different angle. He believed that when we stray too far from our authentic self, when we live only for external rewards, roles, or expectations, the psyche begins to rebel. In his words, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But if we avoid it for too long, the soul stops whispering and starts shutting things down. Exhaustion, apathy, collapse, not as punishment, but as a summons back to wholeness. And Kierkegaard? He saw it as a spiritual sickness, not a disease of the body, but of the self, a despair so subtle that you might not even know you're in it. He warned that most people live in a kind of tranquilized desperation, mistaking numbness for peace. You follow the routine, you say all the right things, but something underneath is silently screaming, "This isn't it." When these thinkers talk about spiritual exhaustion, they're not speaking in metaphors. They're describing the real, soul-deep fatigue that comes when you've lost your why. And without a why, no amount of productivity tricks, morning routines, or external success will ever make you feel whole. You see, meaning is not a luxury, it's fuel. And when your tank is empty, no amount of pushing will get you anywhere. Not because you're broken, but because you were never meant to run on emptiness. This is the moment where everything begins to shift. When you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What have I been forcing myself to do that no longer feels true?" Because laziness is rarely about effort. It's about misalignment. It's what happens when your outer life stops reflecting your inner truth. When every step forward feels like betrayal, not because you're weak, but because you're walking in the wrong direction. Think about it. When have you felt most alive? It wasn't when you were checking boxes or meeting expectations. It was when something inside you matched the moment. When what you were doing felt meaningful, even if it was hard. When the energy came not from pressure, but from purpose. But when that alignment is gone, when you live a life that looks fine from the outside but feels dead on the inside, your system slows down, your emotions flatten, your dreams feel distant, and eventually, even getting out of bed feels like a negotiation with gravity. This is where so many people get trapped. They think they need more motivation, more discipline, more force. But what they actually need is redirection. Real energy comes from truth, from moving towards something your soul actually recognizes. That might mean saying no to the job that drains you, or ending the relationship that keeps you small, or simply admitting that the life you've built no longer fits the person you're becoming. It's terrifying. But it's also how healing begins. Not by doing more, but by doing differently. By making space for what actually matters. Even if you don't yet know what that is. The path out of exhaustion is not paved with guilt. It's paved with honesty. And when you start walking it one step at a time, something incredible happens. You begin to feel not productive but real, not busy but alive. What if the exhaustion isn't the problem, but the message? What if your stillness, your fatigue, your inability to push forward is your soul's final attempt to get your attention? Not to punish you, but to protect you. To say, "We can't keep doing this. Not like this. Not one more day." You've spent so long trying to fight it, to silence it, to force yourself back into a rhythm that never really served you. But maybe the voice that says stop isn't weakness. Maybe it's wisdom. We live in a culture that worships energy, hustle, movement, productivity, but it has no language for spiritual exhaustion. It sees burnout as failure, not as the natural result of betraying your deeper self. And that's what this is. This tiredness, this apathy, this fog you can't shake. It's not laziness. It's grief. It's disconnection. It's the weight of being alive in a world that rewards performance and punishes reflection. But your exhaustion is honest. It doesn't lie. It doesn't pretend. It tells you with brutal clarity that something needs to change. And when you finally stop blaming yourself, when you stop calling it laziness and start listening to it, something powerful begins to stir beneath the surface. A spark, a whisper, a tiny return of something real. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be heard. By yourself. So listen. Beneath the fatigue, beneath the guilt, there is a soul still waiting to be reclaimed. If this resonated with you, like, share, and subscribe to The Existential Edge for more videos like this.